said these three words, what comes to mind? Let's start with the bottom of the alphabet and say Zillow. Number two, homes.com. Number three, NAR. Now, I'm sure some of you listening to this right now are cussing loudly and screaming at the top of your lungs, and you probably just fell off the treadmill. But just relax. I've got a really cool guest today. Some of you might know who he is. He's the founder of this group called Lab Coat Agents. His name is Tristan. And I figured there's nobody better to talk about this super controversial topic or topics that are going on right now than the man himself. So, Tristan, dude, when's the last time you've been on the podcast, man?
I don't know, man. I thought about it when you texted me. I'm like, why don't we show up more often together? I was like, damn, I
I think
forgot.
I thought the exact same thing. I'm glad you said it. So
Yeah,
we'll do it. We'll do it more often.
down with that. Mm.
So where do you want to start with those
Well,
three?
yeah,
Those three
I'll tell you where it
topics.
starts. It starts with CCP, so Clear Cooperation Policy. It goes back a few years that NAR decided to come up with something that says, hey, everyone, we're going to have to, and it's been around forever. They just modified it. But in essence, they're calling it CCP. They put some rules behind it a few years back, and they said everyone that has a listing must put their listing into the big pot, the MLS. This way, it's a lot easier for the consumer to see everything that's available. It's a lot more transparent, and sellers also have the best shot at selling their home because they're in the big pot, right? It's like you want to be seen, everyone? Yeah, well, put your shit on the internet, right? Same idea. Now, does it have some problems? Of course it does, right? But what happens is you start now seeing Compass jump into this and saying, hey, you know what? We're going to keep some of these listings that we've got off the market because we're telling the seller the benefits of keeping it off the market temporarily, right? And then putting it into the MLS. Now, when you read between the lines, I love Compass as a company, but I think Refkin, the leader, CEO, the number one job he has is to make sure that Compass continues to grow because it's a publicly traded company. And what you can clearly see when you read things, by the way, you should try it, everyone, read things, read through the lines. When you read things, you can clearly see that he's only making sure that Compass has the edge. Because as soon as you start keeping all of these listings off of a platform where everyone else can see them, a few things happen. Number one, the biggest problem is buyers aren't able to see everything clearly because now let's say Compass has got some that are secret, Keller Williams has got EXP, who knows who else. And the challenge, here's the other challenge. The smaller brokerages that are trying to make it, the moms and the pops everywhere, they don't have an advantage here. It's like, well, you're going to have to go over here and check it out. You're going to have to go over there. It's not an even playing field and it's not healthy for the market. And so now you start seeing, now that Compass is much bigger, you start saying, oh, got it. They really need to make some money on their stock, right? They really need to make it grow. And you watch this, you also watch the opposite because look, there's two bads, unfortunately. That's the bad on the Compass side, right? It's like, oh man, I don't think it's fair. And yes, some sellers do request, hey, can you do it off market? There are some, dude, right? But the challenge is if we keep on going that route, what's going to happen is some seller, because it already happened, and we're in at 1.8 billion problem already, right? We just happened to see this whole Sitzer Burnett case. Well, what's going to happen is some seller or some sellers are going to find that attorney that's calling everybody every day. Say, hey, have you had a problem? Jeff, have you had a problem? Listen, have you had a, and now they're watching the news, they're watching articles, and they're like, ooh, this is a good one. We're watching it happen. So this is real. They're going to call up some sellers and say, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, do you think you could have gotten more money faster and you could have gotten where you wanted to get to faster? If you would have put your home into the MLS and everywhere else instead of trying to keep it off of the internet. And then they'll think, wow, I didn't think about that. Do you feel like you were told the whole truth about this whole thing? And what happens is the same thing happens all over. It's like, of course not. You find the right sellers that's saying, oh, yeah, Compass screwed me. What happens then? This is exactly what's going to happen, right? Because that's exactly what happened now. And then you fast forward and you're like, oh, now we're in a big pickle, but who participated? Well, definitely Compass and everyone else that did as well, to an extent.
Is that really happening? There are attorneys' offices that's how
Yeah,
they prospect. So
dude.
they go through
Isn't
and look at a closed transaction list, and then they go target the sellers of Compass agents.
that crazy? Dude, you read the when you have if you ever did have a chance to do it, and maybe some people that are listening have, when you look at how this whole case started with the Sitzer Burnett one, they were they spent a lot of money in research. They were poking holes. They're like, which route should we go? Let's interview some people. And then they finally arrived to what you see and what we lost, right? That's how they arrived there. They did research. They called people and they found the hole. So you better believe they're doing it here. We see the ads pop up. Hey, have you been screwed? Have you been called? Have you been whatever? So this is real. Now, the opposite, which is like, damn it, the other side. Because for as long as I can remember, as Zillow's been building up, the other part is, man, I wish somebody would just destroy Zillow. Oh, so this is the Zillow killer. Oh, this is everything about Zillow, right? But now this is the Zillow killer. This would destroy Zillow. In fact, it would take away the power from Realtor.com, from Zillow, from Redfin, from all of these companies. And that's why you have them fighting. Zillow and Redfin actually agree on something, and that CCP should remain in place and everyone should see all the listings. Why? Because that's what gives them the power. Like, why would the consumer go to Zillow if only half of the listings are there? Right?
Mhm.
So I'm like, damn it, on both ends. It's like, I think it's it's fair, it's better to have one place that everyone puts at every listing so that everyone can see it. It's an even playing field for both sides, for all three sides, agents, sellers, and buyers for the most part. But on the other end, it's like, damn, wouldn't it be nice if Zillow was destroyed and all these other um, companies that use all of our data were just not as powerful anymore? Yeah, that would be great, right? But it comes at a cost. It's like, which one are we going to do? So CCP goes into place. Zillow's for it. Compass is not. Now you understand a little bit why. And then you have the Department of Justice coming in and saying, you know, during this Sitzer Burnett case, they bring up CCP in it, but they don't say anything. They say, hey, you know what? NAR is a monopoly because they kind of hold all the information for all listings. And if you want in, you're going to have to pay, right? And if you want in, well, you've got to be a real estate agent or a broker in order to get in, or you have to know an agent. And they can't control that much data, right? Because we may tackle that later. This isn't over, everyone. You see it in the notes. And so I think it's a lack of understanding as far as whether or not NAR is or isn't a monopoly, because what people don't understand is that there are MLSs in each area, and MLSs hold the data, not NAR, right? They just have a reciprocation with them. It's like a three-tier system, Saul Klein tells me. It's NAR, it's the big all-encompassing company that shares information, the state, the state MLS, right? That company. And then you've got the individual MLSs for cities or counties or
Mhm.
whether or not they're sharing. So it's three. And the MLS, the local MLSs are the ones that have that data and information. So I don't know that it's really a monopoly, but it's out there. Now, the DOJ is probably going to continue to come after NAR in the next 2 years. Dude, as soon as these tariffs are, this whole situation is done, we may pop up. Why? Because one of the key witnesses in the Sitzer Burnett case is now Assistant Attorney General for the Department of Justice, which is crazy. So of course he's going to come after us. He doesn't like NAR and he's antitrust. So that hasn't even been opened yet. Now, push that off to the side a little bit. In between all of this, you have NAR trying to protect itself because they kind of anticipate CCP being a problem and saying, you know what, even though it's something that we think is okay, um, maybe we should do something about it because everyone keeps on bringing it up. It's a hot topic. So NAR introduced a new policy, and they're letting MLSs, local MLSs, decide what it looks like for them. But they're calling it, and I'm going to read this so I don't screw it up here. I know that we're on a podcast, but I'm going to share my screen, or I'm just going to read off of my screen. How's that?
Yeah.
The policy developed following many months of consultation with MLS and association leadership, brokerages, agents, multicultural organizations, and industry experts. The policy introduces a new category of exempt listings called delayed marketing exempt listings. The name sucks, but that's what it is. Delayed marketing exempt listings. The exemption will allow a seller, this is going to the seller now, the option to instruct the listing agent to delay marketing a listing through IDX and syndication for a period of time. Now, each MLS will have discretion to determine a delayed marketing period that is most suitable for them. Now, here's the problem with that, the challenge with that. They're going to allow the seller to delay it, but it's layered. So now, if I'm a seller and I say, hey, you know what, let's delay it. You explained it well to me, agent. I think I'm going to delay it. What does that mean? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it still goes into our back end MLS so agents can see it. Only agents can see it, right? Number one. Number two, it doesn't populate and syndicate everywhere. It does not go on Zillow. It does not go on Redfin. It doesn't go anywhere. It's kind of giving the power back to the agents, right? And so that when they released it, well, now Zillow's like, oh shit, that kind of takes the power away from us because we need listings. That's what we're made out of, right? And Compass is like, well, I don't know that we fully like that because other agents can see it. And you already know Compass is true what they really want out of this. They want to be unique. They want to have a marketing edge. They just want their stock to go up, dude. And so why would they want to share it with other agents? They just want to share it with just Compass, right? So they didn't like that either. But Zillow came out and said, this is where the problem started that you and I started watching. Zillow says, listen, everyone, if you decide to delay, if the seller decides to delay it, we're going to give you an option to choose to delay it, but also still show it on Zillow within 24 hours. And if you don't do that, when it goes officially live, we're not going to show it. Screw you. I'm like, what the hell? What? That's how desperate Zillow is right now. If this goes the opposite way, dude, I'm telling you, they will lose a lot of power, right? And so this is why they're threatening. It's like, well, if you're not going to play with us and show us the listing that you're showing to other agents, we will never show that listing to anyone as soon as it goes live. I mean, what would the seller say at that point? The seller's going to be like, oh shit. Well, I guess fine, let's show it on Zillow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
now,
Why wouldn't they?
why wouldn't they? But I'm like, dude, I'm in the middle on this. I'm like, damn it, which one do we pick? Right. But here's the other part. And I don't know how I feel about this. Two or 3 days later, Andy Florence, the CEO of CoStar, who owns Homes.com, decides to send out a letter addressed to all the real estate agents in the industry. And the letter, it pretty much says, hey, everyone, Zillow's screwing you. Not very nice of them. Homes.com is agent friendly, by the way. You're listing your lead. Zillow's the opposite. They're actually selling your leads They're selling them to other people. He pretty much tried to explain what Zillow is doing to the public and to other agents just in case they didn't know. And at the end, and this is a long letter, and at the end, he says, oh, what did he say here? I don't know if I
The
have it here.
PS, the PS part.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't have it here, but the
It says,
PS part,
I
do you
can
have
read
it?
it. Yeah.
Read it.
If you feel that Zillow's heavy-handed attempt to use their market power to force agents like you to list on Zillow within 24 hours is anti-competitive, you can let the DOJ know by clicking that link, basically.
Mhm. That to me was a surprise. I was like, whoa. But when you look up, and if you have time, anybody, as you're driving or listening to this, look up Andy Florence, his history. The dude is cutthroat, like literally cutthroat. So that's expected. When I read it, I was like, okay, got it. It's Andy, right? And that's light for him.
Really.
Yeah, very,
And
very light.
by the way, it's Florence with an A, so it's Florance if you're looking him up.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. That's it. So now they threw that in there literally 2 days ago. I mean, not even fully 2 days, but when you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, who else is going now? Everyone's lining up because EXP and Next Home decided, well, let's play along with Zillow because we believe that everyone should have access to every listing every time, right? So now you have EXP, Next Home says, let's do it. Let's work together, Zillow. And then you've got now Compass, and I'm not sure who else, but I've heard rumors of other companies saying, you know what, let's stick with the Compass route, right? So what's happening is there's a line being driven, and we don't know which side is going to be the winning side. And I don't know if it's going to mean that the Department of Justice has to come in and lay some groundwork down, sue NAR, and say, hey, this is not what we want. This is what we want, right? Because what happened in the other it's in the Sitzer Burnett case, that wasn't the DOJ coming in, so they didn't leave it super clear as to what they want, right? There's no clarity, so they left it up to NAR to kind of make some changes, and so NAR just doesn't seem to be making fast enough changes, or there's also a disconnect with the agents as a whole. And dude, I think we can solve it all with one thing, super easy. And I don't know why it's been delayed so long, and I don't even know if we're ever going to reach it. But you and I agree that there should be a national MLS run by NAR that everyone has access to. Like, there's no reason why we can't create the equivalent of Zillow or Redfin, not to destroy them, but to give the consumer and agents the option to run side by side.
It
And at
would
that
destroy them. It would potentially destroy them though if it was open and didn't have restrictions like Zillow is.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, at this current point, now that they've thrown some stuff out, and we have this whole, what was that rule called that I always forget? The um, that delayed marketing exempt listings. With that, can you imagine? It goes live onto the NAR one, right? But nowhere else. Like at that point, they may claim that we're a monopoly at that point, but um, we get rid of everybody else.
Isn't it already a monopoly?
It kind of is and it kind of isn't, only because of the way it's structured, right? There's NAR, there's the state, and there's the local
Sure. Oh
MLSs.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I could see how people could argue the other way too.
I mean, there is no competitor to NAR though.
No, that's the problem, right? Can the MLSs work with other corporations? Why not, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like NAR needs to be restructured though to where it doesn't. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but one of its primary revenue streams is just dues. And so
Yeah.
NAR's their goals are jaded, which is let's get as many real estate agents as humanly possible because it creates revenue, and that then creates a lot of issues that trickle down into the real estate industry in general.
Dues, yeah, dues, and also they they use the audience our audience, right? To pepper in other companies that they've made deals with, right? That we never really see the benefit of, right? You know, outside of them getting paid and then helping us in that way. But like some of these products could be free for us. Why charge us, right? I don't know. Anyway,
Because it is a revenue generator. That's why.
yeah, a nonprofit that makes revenue and functions like a yeah, a non
I wanted to ask you before we wrap this up, as we let's go back to the Zillow thing because I think the Zillow, just the whole idea in general, kind of, it evokes negative emotions, anger,
Mhm.
and I text the whole reason why we're doing this is because I text you asking the question like there's one side of my brain that says, well, congratulations, Zillow. Like, you've deserved this. You've earned this. You have a right to do
Mhm.
whatever the hell you want because you spent the time and the resources and the energy to build a brand that dominates an industry. And isn't that ultimately what we all are trying to do, whether you're a individual real estate agent, you're a brokerage, whatever business you're in? That's ultimately what we're trying to do. But yet so many of us in this industry, and pretty much all industries, would rather sit back and whine and cry. If I'm a shoe manufacturer and I watch Nike explode, I sat back and whined and cried when just do something about it. Like, go out and build the brand, go out and build the following. And I tied it back to what because I look at this as personal. Like, oh, shoot, that's exactly what I'm going to do in my geographic area, the Lake of the Ozarks. My goal is to grow the eyeballs so that I dominate that. So then I have the leverage to say, listen, you want access to these eyeballs? It's going to cost you.
Yeah.
The same concept as a Zillow. Am I wrong for doing that?
No, man, I strongly believe that Zillow has the right to do whatever they want with the data that they're paying for and that the company that they built. It's not their fault that our industry was stupid enough to let them, right? That we were stupid enough to let them in and have them grow this way. They offered something to the consumer that was right on point. We should have done it.
Yeah.
And now we're complaining about it, right? I think at this point we can learn from it and say, hey, how can we then do something even better? Because complaining about it and trying to match them right now isn't going to do anything, right?
Yeah.
They're already ahead. So what's next that we can get ahead of?
So, what is your answer to that question? So, as an individual agent, what is the best advice you would give them for?
As an individual agent, it's going to be different than let's say a group of people that have access to millions and billions of dollars, right? That's a different talk. An individual agent, the easiest thing we can do and we should be doing is where Zillow can't beat you, and Zillow can't beat you locally. Zillow can't beat you in your niche. Dude, Jeff, it's exactly what you're doing in the Ozarks. Zillow will never beat you in the Ozarks, ever, right? They'll never beat us in the niches.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say. Focus in on the niche, build those relationships, build your brand around whatever niche you're in, and you'll never have to worry about Zillow.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff, man. It's a fun conversation.
Yeah,
We'll have to make this more on that. We'll have to put you on the regular rotation. I'm gonna put you on the regular rotation of your podcast. How about that?
dude, we could alternate, the same time, same
I love
same
it.
time. We do it once a month. We could do this.
I'm down. I'm down. Thank you, brother, for being on. And I
Thanks
guess
for the idea.
everybody knows who listens to this. If they want to take this conversation further with you, what's the best way to do that with you?
Just message me on Instagram. It's the easiest way.
Perfect. We'll see you next time, buddy.
Thanks, bud.